Okay, today we're going to be making rich, flaky, perfectly sweet baklava. I promise that this recipe is easier to make than it looks. It's packed with warm flavors like honey and cinnamon and has just the right amount of lightly flavored nuts throughout. It is honestly so good. So to start off, we're going to make the syrup that goes on top of the baklava because it needs a bit of time to cool. It is honestly so easy to make. You want to place a small saucepan over a medium heat and add in 150 grams or 3/4 of a cup of white granulated sugar, 236 grams or 1 cup of water, 168 grams or half a cup of honey, 2 tablespoons of freshly squeezed lemon juice, 1 cinnamon stick, and 2 strips of orange peel. This is just going to add a nice subtle aroma and extra flavor to the syrup. Now just give that a good stir and then you want to bring it to a simmer. Now you just want to let that simmer for an additional 5 minutes or so and then take it off the heat to cool to room temperature. I just like to keep my syrup in the pan and then once I'm ready to use it, I'll take the cinnamon and orange peel out. Now next we're going to prepare the nuts. So to a food processor, you want to add in 200 grams or 2 cups of walnuts, 120 grams or 1 cup of pistachios, 3/4 of a teaspoon of cinnamon and 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt. And then you just want to pulse that a few times until the nuts are coarsely ground. You don't want it to be too fine or have large chunks either, so somewhere in between. So that is our nut mixture all done, and now we're going to prepare our phyllo dough. So for this recipe, you're going to need 40 phyllo sheets, and you want to trim the sheets so that they fit nice and tightly into a 9 by 13 inch baking pan. Now once your phyllo sheets are cut to size, you want to cover them with a damp towel, otherwise they might start to dry out as you're making the baklava, which you don't want. Now the last thing that you're going to need is 226 grams or 1 cup of melted unsalted butter and a pastry brush, and then you are ready to start assembling. Now before you start assembling, this is also the time to preheat your oven to 320F or 160C conventional. So to start assembling, you want to first grease the bottom and sides of the 9 by 13 inch pan and then place your first phyllo sheet on top. Next, you're going to generously coat the phyllo sheet in a layer of butter and place another phyllo sheet on top and repeat this process until you've used 10 phyllo sheets. Now once the 10 phyllo sheets are done, you're going to evenly spread out about 3/4 of a cup of the crushed nuts, and I just like to use my hands to help kind of ensure that everything is evenly spread out. Now next we're going to place another phyllo sheet on top and again cover it with a generous amount of butter, and then place another on top and repeat this step until you've used up another 6 phyllo sheets. Now again, we're going to spread out another 3/4 of a cup of the crushed nuts and cover that with 6 phyllo sheets with each sheet coated in butter. And then another 3/4 of a cup of nuts, and then again 6 buttered phyllo sheets on top, and then another 3/4 of a cup of nuts. I will have the order written up on the screen just to make it a bit easier to follow. Now once you've spread out the last of the crushed nuts, you're going to place 12 phyllo sheets on top with each phyllo sheet coated in butter. This is going to give you a nice thick crunchy top, which I love. I always like to add a few extra sheets of phyllo to the top of the baklava. So that is the hard part of the baklava done, and now we need to cut it out into diamond shapes before we bake it. So to do this, you want to use a sharp knife to make 4 long cuts into the baklava, and then make cuts diagonally to make that signature diamond shape. You might need to run your knife twice through each cut just to make sure that it's cut properly. Okay, so that is looking good, and now this is going to go into our preheated oven for 75 to 90 minutes, or until the tops are a deep golden brown color. You want to make sure that you give the baklava a good amount of time to bake, otherwise the top won't kind of be really nice and crunchy. So my baklava is all done now. It has the most beautiful golden top to it. And now you want to immediately pour the cooled sugar syrup that we made earlier evenly over the top. You should hear a sizzling sound as you pour the syrup over the top. And this just helps to ensure that the baklava stays crunchy rather than, go soggy. Okay, and now you just want to let this sit for a minimum of 4 hours to allow the baklava to soak up all that sugar syrup. This baklava recipe is so incredibly rich and delicious. The phyllo pastry is so flaky and buttery. It has just the right amount of nuts, and that sugar syrup isn't overly sweet, which I love. It is so good. It is so wonderfully crunchy. It has such a good amount of nuts in it, and you really get that sugar syrup in every bite. It's like really made it super nice and moist. And one of my favorite things about this recipe is that it isn't overly sweet. Sometimes baklava can just be like, that tad bit too sweet because of the sugar syrup, but this one has just the perfect amount of sweetness. So that is it for today, guys. If you do decide to give this beautiful baklava recipe a go, then please do leave a review on my blog. It really helps my content out, and I absolutely love hearing from you guys. I'll see you in the next video.